The Gauteng government is under pressure to tighten COVID-19 restrictions. Over 9,000 new cases have been reported in the last 24 hours across the country. Gauteng accounted for nearly 6,000 of those. The province is not only driving the figures, but it's also dealing with serious issues with several healthcare facilities. To discuss this, we're joined now by Professor Bruce Mellado, member of the Gauteng Premier's Advisory Committee on COVID-19. A very good evening to you, Professor. Tell us what we are looking at here in Gauteng and what your expectations are.
Thanks, Jane, for having me. So indeed, the situation is very serious. As you have correctly pointed out, Gauteng is driving the number of positives. We have already 5 days in a row about 5,000 positives a day. What is more worrying is the acceleration in the number of cases we are experiencing in the province, in that we have an increase of 74% with respect to the previous week, up from 37%. So it's certainly very worrisome acceleration in the number of cases in the province of Gauteng.
I know that concerns have also been raised about healthcare facilities. Do we have enough beds? Do we have enough equipment to tackle what we're experiencing?
As soon as we saw the numbers and other indicators that made us believe that we were in the beginning of a spike, now we are in the middle of a very serious spike, we certainly raised concerns and sounded the alarm in order to expedite solving all these deficiencies that you have correctly pointed out too. So what we do as a committee is we provide modeling and numbers and projections as to what's going to happen in weeks to come when the peak is going to take place, the number of active cases we would have to handle, and from there you can infer the number of beds that will be required.
I'm also hearing that operations that were delayed during the first and the second spike are now having to go ahead. Is that proving to be a problem? Because, you know, many of the COVID wards or wards that could be put aside for COVID are no longer available.
Well, this is obviously a question that needs to be addressed to the CEOs of hospitals. Of course, it's a complicated situation because this is a third wave that comes on top of the second and the first. So clearly there is a backlog that need to be cleared and that need to be attended to. That's clearly an additional complication that comes in and comes into play, yeah.
And I mean, it feels that every wave is more dangerous and spreads faster than the previous one. Is that true? Is that just a perception that we are getting? And what have you learned from the other waves that you can take into this one?
That's a very good question. So we do learn a lot about previous waves. It helps us a lot in terms of understanding all the important parameters and their internal correlation. So what we see in the third wave is not particularly different or strikingly different from the first and the second waves. It certainly has come as a surprise that we are experiencing this strong acceleration in the middle of the wave. But overall, we don't see striking differences in how the waves are evolving and how the temporal evolutions are taking place.
Okay, what do you think is going to bring the spike down? Obviously, the vaccinations will help, but we can't get those in quickly enough. So what's going to work?
Right, that's a very good question. That's the reason why the Premier and the acting minister came up talking about tighter restrictions on the cards. There's obviously a multi-pronged approach that needs to be dealt with and attacked, in that one has to first deal with tighter controls on super spread events. We have to enhance the awareness of the population in regard to adhering to social distancing. And of course, in parallel to that, the vaccination campaign and rollout to the most vulnerable members of our communities have to continue. So it certainly is a multi-pronged approach.
Okay. And tell us a little bit more what you're hearing about vaccines. We've got promise that more are coming. Obviously, we had that J&J disaster. Where are we as far as that is concerned? How confident are you that we're going to get them soon?
So questions regarding to the procurement or getting access to these vaccines, of course, is dealt with at the level of the National Department of Health. What we do at the level of the provinces, as soon as we have those vaccines, or we have to, for instance, study the numbers or make projections, we basically take those as input to our modeling and to our advice.
Okay. If you have a message to give to South Africans, particularly in Gauteng at the moment, or I guess across the whole country, what is it in light of what you're seeing?
I think it's very clear, and that will be reiterated by policymakers, is that we have to adhere to social distancing really as a result of the fact that we don't have enough vaccines to stop a third wave. Is really in our hands to stop or slow down the numbers to prevent the spike to develop further.
Professor, very good to talk to you. Good evening. Thank you.